Welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we are diving into a new series. It is called the In Stilettos series. It's by, I hope I'm saying this right, it's either Nana Malone or Nana Malone. The first book in the series that we're going to dive into is called Sexy in Stilettos. We meet Jaya Trudeau, and she's given a presentation. She's an event planner for her father's company. Her father's name is Pierre Trudeau, and the name of the company is called Trudeau Events. So she's given this presentation to some tech guys, and as she talks, she used some quotes from like Battlestar Galactica, different nerd stuff, right? She understands these people, these are her people. And so this, however, is not the original presentation that was supposed to be given. But again, because she understood these type of men, it was just kind of like, I'm not going to go with something that's flashy. They're not going to buy into that. Besides, everyone else is going to try that with them anyway, thinking that that's what they want to do, and that's not who they are. So she leaves the meeting. Her father is absolutely pissed, and so is Derek. He's VP of the company. So they go into Pierre's office, and she's like, listen, I know it's not what we discussed, but I know these type of people. These are my people. And her father basically was like, that's not what we wanted. You know, like you went completely against what we said. Well, then the Derek guy has this whole spiel, and he basically tells her that she's fired. And she's looking like, wait a minute, what? What do you mean I'm fired? She's like, you can't fire me. Only my dad can. Because her father's on the board. Well, then she looks at her dad, and he just tells her, well, there is like an opening in accounting, if you would like to do that. She's like, I'm not an accountant. I'm an event planner. And he says, well, then unfortunately you're fired. And he tells her, I expect you to be at the wedding in 2 weeks. And of course, she's like, this is not happening. So her father gets up, he leaves, and then we find out that Derek is marrying her sister in 2 weeks. She says to him, wow, you must really hate me to do this to me. And she knows that right now she may have a little bit, well, she's fired now, but she may have more shares than him. But once he marries her sister, well, then he's going to have more power. And so clearly they've thrown her away, right? And then we find out that her and Derek used to be together. And now he's marrying the sister. So I am like flabbergasted, okay? The mere fact that you all fired her, and I'm looking at the father because we already know Derek's no good, right? So I don't expect decency from that type of a person, right? He's no good. But the fact that her father is on board with this wedding and then wants her to make sure she comes after you just fired her, I'm like, oh, he's trash. Everyone here besides Jaya is trash. I am absolutely floored. Like, that is insane. So she, of course, is like, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. She doesn't want to do a spectacle. She's like, let me just get out of here. So she, before she leaves, I'm sorry, Derek also tells her, oh yeah, your stuff will be sent by messenger within the week. And so when she leaves out, she can't stop the tears from falling, unfortunately. She's about to get on the elevator, and then she runs into a very hard body. So the person she ran into, his name is Alec Danthers, and we switched to his POV. And he's got this gorgeous woman who knocks into him. She's crying. Instead of pushing her away, his instinct was to console her. So he didn't really grow up, he claims, with a mother that was very loving, but he had seen it enough on shows and movies that he knew how to do it. So when she finally comes to, Of course, she's like, I am so sorry. She had ruined his shirt. He, of course, didn't care. He was very struck by her. It threw him off balance. He had not anticipated that. He, of course, is like, it's okay, and she was like, I'm so embarrassed. And he could see that, like, she was like this really strong woman who clearly had gone through something that just broke her for a moment, and whatever wall she had put up, it was coming back. So he was more than happy to try and console her. When she did separate from him, he didn't really like it. She gave him his card. She says, my name's Jaya, and, basically charge the dry cleaning, call this number and charge it. So he gets off. It's the wrong floor for him. One of the women on the floor tells him where to go. He takes the stairs and he gets there to speak with his stepmom. So her name is Adele Westhorpe, and she summoned him, and he's hoping whatever she needs done, it can be done within like 2 weeks, because he plans to get back to uh, Durban, South Africa, and he's like an amateur racer, and so he's gotten a spot on a team, and he's itching to get back. So Adele tells him uh, that she needs him right now. So we find out that Adele's about 50 years old, very successful. She's the owner of this hotel company. She used to be a model. She was married to his dad, who had no idea he existed um, until I forget what age it was when he found out that this child existed. And so she embraced him from day one. And so he calls her either Mimi, or he might say Adele. So he has a brother, Max, who of course is younger, because at the time when he showed up, Adele hadn't had any children. But she never wavered with how she treated Alec. Like, that was just her firstborn, as far as that's how she treated him, which I think is beautiful. I always love when people, embrace children, coming into a situation. It's always wonderful. So apparently, Max, who is his younger brother, has gone missing. And the company wants to go, well, she wants to take the company public next year, but this is going to be a big problem. So she basically wants him to come in, try and find the brother, find out what's going on. The brother has a fiance, her name's Sue, who's pregnant. And this is also Alex's ex-girlfriend. I say, oh my gosh, people going behind folks is crazy. But anyway, um, he's drained his trust fund, and I don't know. I just feel a little bit like he's making these decisions, and it's like, why does Alec have to get pulled into the bullshit? That's how I view it at this point. Like, I'm like, these are all very much things that this boy is doing, and I get, okay, he's family or whatever, but I mean, come on. You are blatantly making fucked up decisions. You go and are going to marry my ex-girlfriend. You've gotten her pregnant. Like, I don't know. I really wouldn't be worried about him too much. I'm just, that would be me. We switch back to Jaya, poor girl. It's been about 3 days. Her apartment is a mess. There's Chinese food, ice cream, pizza, I mean, the girl, poor girl. This is not how she normally lives, but this is, her, process for what she just went through. Okay. So she has two friends, Misha and Rika, and they're like, open the door. She, of course, is like, no, just go away. I don't want any visitors. Just in a total self-loathing moment. That's her space right now. Well, they have a key. Because the doorman, Marco, he's a Brazilian guy. He pretty much will do anything for a smile and probably a quick peek at a boob. So they've got the key. They come in. They're shocked because, again, this is not how she lives. And they're like, oh no, you got to pick yourself back up. Like, we can't let you wallow in this shit. So they get her to take a shower. And they see she's purchased some Christian Louboutin shoes. These things were like $3 grand, and that's on sale. She can't return them. So then the girls, uh, you know, they're upset with what happened to her because they do realize she was done really dirty. You know, she had really been dealt a really fucked up hand. And it's like her family's doing this to her, you know? And that's what is so fucked up. So she comes from like old money, from New Orleans. And Misha comes up with a plan and she's like, hey, let's just do this. We'll share the shoes. We'll give you each $1,000 and we'll just share the shoes. Now I'm just kind of like, okay, if she's an event planner, successful, come from money, if she put $3,000 on a credit card, I don't think that should not like put her in financial ruin. I would think somebody like her is probably got a great savings. She should be pretty good. But however, this is what they're gonna do. Okay? And she's okay, she's down for it. And it also makes her really happy that her friends were like, okay, we'll take on this, if this is a burden for you, we'll take this on for you as well. Like I think that aspect of it I do love. I think that's really really sweet. I do love that. Especially when she has such a fucked up family that like treats her like whatever. It's refreshing that she has these friends that are like ride or die for her. I love that. So they're like, we're picking out an outfit and we are going out tonight. So the girls go out. Everyone's looking fabulous. She's really happy to be with her friends. It really got her out of her funk. She needed it. She's doing a toast and she's got a plan going. She's one of those people. She is a planner to the core, and it helps her like attack what she needs to get done. So her plan is like, she knows that guy Brett, he really liked her pitch, and she's like, they even decided, she found out that they decided to go with Trudeau events. That would not have happened if she had gone with their presentation, right? So she has this thing of she's gonna fight to get back into the company, her family's company. She's hoping that this is gonna force her dad to have to rehire her. And to me, I'm like, girl, just start your own shit. You clearly have wonderful ideas. You need to just follow your gut. Stop trying to be amongst people that are telling you. They literally said to her, we're going in a certain direction and you're not falling in line, basically. So your vision and their vision doesn't match, which means you just need to make your vision come true. You need to make that a reality, your vision. Fuck them. That's how I feel. But anyway, but she wants to be, you know, back in the company. And it just upsets me because it's like her father, that's supposed to be your protector, and he's not protecting her. Like, you allowed someone to come in, he cheated on your daughter with your other daughter, and you're okay with that shit, and you're willing to go along with whatever this man says about your daughter that he wronged. It baffles me, it upsets me because I'm like, this is a horrible father. I mean, he's awful. It just it just sucks. And that's why I feel like she should go out on her own, because she's never going to feel appreciated. She had originally thought to go to the wedding by herself, but now she's like, she's definitely not going to do that. She thought she was going to do that I'm a strong woman thing bullshit, but she's like, nah, we not doing that. So she's going to get a guy. Of course, he's got to be somebody worth, looking at on paper, on and off. And so they were thinking like, oh, your friend Beckett. So Beckett's like this really handsome guy. He's her friend. They've been friends for a long time. And she's like, nah, they already know who he is. That's not going to work. So Beckett comes over. He's a tall white dude. And he's like really sweet, but he has this just serious look that it can be kind of menacing to people. And so he comes over, tells her, he had found out about her getting fired because he called the office and found out, her assistant was now the assistant to her sister, Tamara. So, she wasn't, he knew at that point she wasn't at the company anymore. So he, of course, was willing to go to the wedding with her, but she's like, no, no, we're not going to do that. She felt like someone was watching her. She could feel eyes on her. And so, sure enough, she looks up and it's our boy Alec. So the club is actually in a Westthorpe hotel, which of course is a company that his family owns. So he comes over and she's like, the girls of course see him and they're like, oh my gosh, who is he? Like, she's a little tongue tied at first. And he's like, oh my gosh, you hurt my heart. You don't even remember me, And then she says his name, Alec, and he's like, oh, okay. And then he offered to buy drinks for her girlfriends. And he had manager on his shirt. So she's like, if you're the manager, why would you be giving away free drinks, and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, I think this hotel can spare, some free drinks. I don't think it's going to run us out of business. And she says, well, I'm going to dance. So she goes out to dance. He comes behind her, puts his hand on her and on his, I think on her waist, and tells her, whenever you're ready for that drink, you just let me know. And then he leaves. So then her friends come over and they're like, girl, like, what are you doing? He's fine. Like, what is happening? And they're like, you need to go over there. And Misha saw one of his friends, whose name is Caleb, and she's like, I'm going to go flirt with his friend. So she goes and she talks to Caleb. Eventually, Jaya goes and talks to Alec, gets her drink, and then after that, she kind of blurts out, let's get out of here. So he tosses the keys to the guy behind the bar and says, lock up. They leave, get in the elevator, this private elevator, and they start making out. She's bold as hell. Girl is not normally like this. But you know what? Some people just bring out a certain side to you, and that's just the truth. So they get to the presidential suite. He says this is where his brother Max lives. And so he tells her he's just staying there while he's in town. They start kissing again. They go back at it. They have just hot raw, well, not raw because they used a condom, but just amazing sex. They did it like 3 or 4 times that night. um During like sex, she was like bargaining with him about him coming to be her date for the wedding, and then him making a bargain, um wanting like this not to be like the last time, because he's like he wants this again. And so she wakes up, she's in the dark, of course she's not drunk. So once she had made that plan, she felt super empowered and invincible, and she just wanted to have some fun, normal fun, some fun that she never normally, indulges in. So then she's like, okay, I got to get out of here. Like, it's going to be awkward. We don't need to go through all that, So she's like, I got to get out of here. And so she gets up, finds her stuff, and we find out while she's like getting herself, we get a little information, and we find out the situation with Derek was only 9 months ago. So this isn't even that long ago that he cheated with your sister and got engaged. This is all within 9 months. And everyone wants you to be okay. That's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. Just makes them all even more trash. Him, the sister, and the daddy. I don't like any of them. So our boy Alec wakes up. He's ready for another round, but Jaya's gone. He's looked around the whole, penthouse. He's calling her name. Nothing. He almost slips on something, and it's her driver's license and credit card because her purse had dropped, and those things got left there. So he goes to her place. She answers the door. Of course, she's shocked to see him. She tried to say that the reason she left was because she wanted to spare him any awkwardness, but he told her that was a lie. She did that for herself. So then she tells him that she's got a lot to do, declined his breakfast invitation, but then he told her he could help her with whatever she had going on. And because he did feel a spark for her. And she tells him about her ex, her sister, the wedding, And he was like, I might just be able to help you. So then Jaya was like, how would you be able to help me? You know? And she's like, I need to be putting out, fillers and things like that. But he says, I can get you a meeting with Adele Westhorpe. There's the end of the year gala. It's about 1,000 people that are going to attend. It's at the end of the year. I can get you a meeting today. Because she knows that he knows that Adele needs to find someone for this event planning. And in return, he'll go with her to the wedding. So of course she's like, that's too good to be true, blah blah blah. But she was very much intrigued, and then she tells him she wanted to take sex off the table because she needs to be focused. She's not a one night stand person. She gets attached, and he seems to be the not get attached type of person. So therefore, she needs that taken off the table. He said, "Okay, fine, I'll take it off the table." And he tells her they're gonna have to go to LA because that's where Adele is interviewing for the position. And he's like, "You can drive," you know, because she said something about you might be an axe murderer or something like that. So he says, "You drive." So someone's knocking on her door. Someone's trying to get in, and he goes to her bedroom. And he tells her before he leaves, like, I've had enough situations where, husbands, fiance, lesbian lovers, coming after one night stand. And he's like, you know, she looks at him like, somehow I believe that actually happened. So he just went in the bedroom to wait. It's her sister Tamara. So she's the only other person who has an actual key to the place. So she comes in, which I would have snatched that fucking key away from her. But anyway, I digress. So she's got her box of stuff. And of course, Jaya's like, why are you here? She's like, well, Dad was going to have a courier bring your stuff over, but I figured, I could bring it over. She was like, I didn't want to say anything after it happened. And then she says, well, maybe if you just stuck to the presentation they approved, and maybe I can talk to Dad. And she's like, oh no, I don't need anything from you. And her sister's like, I did want to know if you were going to be coming to the wedding. And so if you're going to bring a date, and if you were going to be bringing a date. So their mother died like 10 years ago. Tamara's the older one. But Tamara's more reckless, does whatever she wants. And she's on that, she's, still my sister crap. But she had promised her mom that she would be there, for Tamara and all this type of crap. And so she agrees to go. And then Tamara's like, again, are you bringing a date? And before she can answer, Alec brings his ass out of the bedroom. And he's like, oh, yeah, she's bringing a date. And Tamara's mouth drops open because the man's gorgeous. And she's like, who are you? And he's like, I'm Alex, Danthers. And, she's been keeping me under wraps and all this type of shit. And I'm like, you know what? I would keep him under wraps, period, with this heifer, because bitch, you already done fuck my dude that I had, like, he's shit, and we get that, we already know Derek's shit, but you're supposed to be you're her sister, and you fucked her dude. I wouldn't bring nobody around you ever in life again. Like, I just wouldn't. You cannot be trusted. And if my man is finer than my last dude, bitch, you clearly want, what I have, so therefore I would keep him under wraps too. Makes perfect sense. So the sister leaves. They're now on their way to LA to meet up with Adele. Adele calls him. He answers it on his Bluetooth, and she, of course, is like wanting to know where he is with the whole Max thing. He's like, I gotta leave. Just give me some time. X, Y, and Z. So then we get a little backdrop, and we find out that the father's name was Royce Westhorpe, and that Alex's mother died when he was about 16. That's when he showed up on their doorstep. And his father didn't want anything to do with him. Adele immediately took to him before she even got the test results back, because Dad was like, we'll have to do a paternity test because I don't trust it, and da 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 da. He was like ready to call social services and everything. Just a real bitch. So she's always been a mother to him. Even after, again, she had her own child, Max, she has been very fiercely protective and loving towards him. And he tells her, I got a surprise for you. So Jaya goes in the meeting. She, of course, super nervous, but she goes in and she starts asking questions like, "What do you want? What's the theme? What kind of food would you like?" Like, start asking these real questions like she's already got the job. And she gave her proposal of what kind of event she could do. And she tells her, hopefully, I'll hear. No, she said, I expect an answer by the end of the week. So Adele was kind of like, "You got spunk. And she's like, I'll let you know." So then we switch back to Alec. He apparently knew about this home off Mulholland Drive that used to belong to Patsy Cline. So his brother Max has this like obsession with Patsy Cline, and he found out this was a house she had lived in, so he bought for it. He bought it cash. Adele doesn't know about this house, and he, has tracked him down, and we find out he apparently owes money to some folks. So he's gotten himself into a bit of a pickle. It apparently is worse than what he's saying, um, but he doesn't want to elaborate on what it is. Um, he called Alex. He like did a dig at Alex, calling him Mr. Fixer, and even said something about him being a bastard child, this and that. Pissed him off. Um, but this is where, if your kid's a loser, your kid's a loser. Okay, so it's like, how about you stop being a fucking loser and make better instead of trying to jab at me because I gotta keep coming and bailing you out. You know what I mean? Like, you getting upset with me because you the fuck up. That's not my fault. You made that decision. No one's forcing you to be a fuck up. You're making actively fucked up person. Again, the brother Max and again, I wouldn't have gave a fuck about him. You want to do stupid shit in the world. I'm sorry. Like, it's just I don't like people that like to blame other people for everything. He's clearly that type of person. Um, so he's like, "What are you gonna do, Drac and all this type of stuff?" And he's like, "If I have to." And then Max's ass ran. And I forgot to mention, when Jaya was leaving out of Adele's office, her pants ripped. She had this Stella McCarthy suit, and it had ripped, and so the poor girl had to try and hide it. So Jaya's waiting for him in the lobby, and she's like, "I'm gonna give him like 10 more minutes. If he doesn't show up, I'm getting a train or I'm getting a cab back to San Diego." So he comes up, and he's got like leaves in his hair. He looks rough. She's like, basically like, "What the hell happened to you?" He never fully went into detail. He was trying to make jokes and stuff like that. But he's like, "Let me give you a tour." He's gonna get straightened up first, and then she's talking about this list that she made of things she wants to do before she's 30. She wouldn't tell him everything that's on it because no one's ever seen that list. And we get a little backdrop, and we find out that her relationship with her father, it's always been very tense. He's always put more pressure on her, um, and he'll at least smile at Tamara, but he doesn't do it to her. She can never do anything good enough. If she pulls off a flawless event, he still hounds her about something. And I'm almost wondering, like, is this your dad? Like, this seems like spite. The mere fact that he's so willing to accept the bitch of a sister and the dude that she's with and treat her like shit sounds like he's got a lot more against her, is how it's coming off. So I'm very curious to find out exactly, like, if this is even her fucking father, at this point. But Alec is just kind of like, you do everything to try and please somebody, but you can't please them, so maybe you need to stop trying, you know? And basically he's saying to her, like, you need to stop trying to get back into this company. And I think that as well. I think she needs to really rethink this. And so he had guessed something on her list, which was public nudity. And so he says to her, "Want to go for a skinny dip?" Alec takes his shirt off, and we find out that he actually saw her list. He has a photographic memory. And so when it spilled out of her purse, he saw it, and he saw skinny dipping was on there. Also, what was on there was to tell Derek how lousy he was in bed. There was also something on there about her riding the subway in New York, traveling around the world by herself. She also wants a threesome. He saw that on there. And he, of course, was like, if, that can be done, with, two women, that's, we can do that. And she said, who said anything about two women? And when she said that, he immediately became possessive with the idea of there being another man in the room with her. And he very much is someone who's like a free bird, that type of thing. So him feeling that type of possessiveness is a little weird to him. He's afraid because he has his father's blood in him that, he's going to be flighty, basically. Now, he does keep his commitments. So, as far as him doing something, if he says he's going to do it, he does it. But I think the fear that he could be like his father is in his head. You know what I mean? So it's almost like I'm preventing it from happening before it happens. So I'll just not commit to certain things or to people as far as like relationships, and then that way I don't have to worry about anything. I'm like, okay, if that's your logic, go for it. So he figures, let's do the skinny dipping, cross them off your list. Well, we find out she's like, it's like list on another level for her. So like, normally, yes, people will make grocery lists before they go to the store. That's normal. But she has a list for what she needs to do for the day. So if she doesn't put going to the grocery store on her list, it's like she can't do it. So this is like another level of her when it comes to lists. Lists are great, okay? They really are. But hers, this is a little different. This is something else. So they're going back and forth. She is in her head on top of like their conversation. We switch back to her. She's looking at him. He's beyond beautiful to her. She's thinking about the fact that, she doesn't know that much about him. She can tell he's really smart, very well traveled, but yet all he does is work at a hotel. Like, it just doesn't fit. So then she says, she already knows he's not a long term type of person. However, she does try and dig for a little bit more information. So eventually she decides she's going to go ahead and go in. And so she's completely naked. She's in the pool. He comes over to her. They're about to fuck. But someone comes out, this guy named Mike, who works at the hotel, and he's like, Mrs. Westhorpe wants to see you, talking to Alec. And so, of course, he's like, okay. And at first, she's thinking about breaking the rule of taking sex off the table. Um, and then she kind of thought maybe it shouldn't be broken. Like maybe this interruption happening, because she was about to fuck that man. So she's like, maybe this interruption was a sign for me not to break it. So after Alec has his meeting with Adele, they leave. She doesn't talk that much on the way back. She's kind of wiped out from that day, whole day. Um, she gets back. She listens to her messages. There's one from Misha. Hey, we haven't heard from you today. Like, what's going on? She has a message from her dad saying something about, I can't believe you would think that I would, like, put something out so that you couldn't get another job. I don't have time for that type of stuff. X, Y, and Z. Call me back. So she apparently had called her sister or something and kind of left a message kind of alluding to the fact that clearly she knew that their dad had like put this out, into the event planner field, because she wasn't getting anything back from the fillers that she put out. And she had great quality of work. Like, it wasn't like she was a piss poor type of an event planner. She was a great one. So it was like, something's up. Someone has to be doing something. So she's having a glass of wine. She's on the phone with Misha. And then there's a knock on her door, and it is Pierre Trudeau. So her father, she of course is like, what are you doing here? We find out he's never even been to this apartment. When she had her housewarming, never showed up. So she didn't even think he knew where she lived. So again, we see this distance. And again, I'm just trying to figure out if he doesn't come around, he doesn't do, like, is this her actual dad? Is there like some resentment or something? Like, I am just trying to figure this out. I really am. Um, so he, of course, she's like, what are you doing here? He's like, well, I called you. I left a message and I didn't hear back from you. And then he tells her again that he hasn't called any clients, anyone, telling them that I said it incorrectly, not clients. He hasn't called any other companies, event planning companies, telling them that, she shouldn't be hired. Like, he hasn't done that. He has not trashed her reputation. And she was just kind of like, it's kind of crazy because you all landed that client because of my pitch. If I hadn't have done that, you wouldn't even got that tech client. And he's just all, saying, well, I can possibly call someone for you if you need me to. I can put in a good word. And she's like, why would I even need you to do anything like that for me? Like, you're the one that's clearly putting things out there that I shouldn't have another job. So that's crazy. But then that also makes me think it might not be coming from him. Or, I mean, he could just be lying, but possibly it might not be him. Next morning, she goes to Alex's room. He, of course, has barely slept because, after he dropped her off, like, he still had to man the bar. Like, it's an all night, pretty much all night club. And so he really hadn't slept. So when he finally does come to the door, he is happy to see her. But again, the man ain't really slept. And she kind of was just like, she was over there to go over the plan. And he's like, plan, just give me a minute. And then she gets upset and it's like, if you don't want to help me with the plan, da 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 da. He's like, chill. Like, I just woke up. Give me a minute. So he lays down. He winds up throwing her on the bed, but he wasn't trying to fuck her. He literally just wanted to hold her. Um, he's had so many fantasies about her, but he was tired. So he's just holding her. But unfortunately, she got all horny. He thought it was a dream, but it was real. So then they wind up fucking. And then afterwards, she goes, cleans up, and he got her some new clothes because he had saw her sides when he was in her bedroom. He looked in her closet. You know he was going to do a little investigation. And so he got her some clothes to wear. She's now ready to talk about the wedding logistics, how it's going to work. He didn't remember much of what had been said before, and she got pissy again. And he had to tell her again, listen, I had a long night. I just need a refresher. I told you I would go with you to the wedding, and I am. But just give me a moment, refresh my brain on what the plan is. And she was just getting a little too jumpy to me. First of all, you come up at the crack of dawn. The man is not necessarily an early riser. People are not operating on your fucking time. And I was just kind of like, you need to calm the fuck down. Because she was a little too much. She really was. She was just doing too much. So, and I really feel like the biggest issue is the fact that you're afraid he's going to let you down. Because that's what you're kind of used to, right? So now you're projecting. Stop. Like, give the man a moment. Just rehash whatever partial part y'all had gone over the plan. And let it be that. So basically, her plan is that Alec is going to distract the dad by asking him to have him give him a tour of the country club. And then she's going to talk to the Brett guy from the tech company. And so Alec is like, okay, and if the Derek guy comes up, I'll just like shoot up the bat signal. And she's like, okay, that'll work. So then, basically, how did the whole situation happen with Derek? Girl came home and heard her sister faking it while fucking him in her bed. And he thought it was her. I was like, first of all, you ought to know my pussy. Second of all, Your sister knew what was happening, and that is just so fucked up on so many levels. And I'm not gonna give him a pass because I think he trashed Derek, but that is your actual sister, and that just lets me know a bitch been wanting your life. That's all. When you do stupid shit like that, oh, you just want my life. And the mere fact that the dad is okay with this, it's just trash. So we find out promised to her mom. The mom died about 10 years ago, and she had, said she would always take care of the father and Tamara, because she was always, more responsible, you know, goal oriented. But that's a lot to put on someone, and I don't give a fuck. You should not have to endure such piss poor fucking behavior because it's your family. They treat her like shit, and she's supposed to still look out for them. No, leave them to their own devices, and they can be destroyed however. I wouldn't care. Fuck that promise. I'm sorry. She'll just have to roll over in a fucking grave. I'm sorry. But I would not be keeping that stupid ass promise. Because those two people are trash to me. And that was my little rant. He can clearly see, like, that she's a relationship type of a woman. But like she said to him, listen, I don't have any expectation, you know? And I think what was freaking him out is because the questions she would ask him, it's like you're trying to get close to me. And so that of course makes him try and joke to like throw off the scent, like cuz he doesn't want to go deep. But like she told him, I already know that, so you don't need to feel that way. I guess, hell, you want to know a little something about the person you fucking. You know? I don't think that's that abnormal, but I think for him, it's on top of the fact that he's feeling a lot that he's not used to. So it's almost like if I tell her too much, I'm gone, you know? So she gets a text message the next day from Adele Westhorpe's assistant saying that she'll see her on Monday, 1 p.m. Don't be late. Miss Westhorpe does not accept tardiness and all this type of stuff. Her father was hard to work for, so in all honesty, I think she'll be fine. If you used to having somebody, constantly tell you you're not enough, you're not good enough, even if you do something good, it could have been done better. I just don't think there's anything harder than that. So I think she'll be fine. She goes over to Alex's and we switched to Alec first, though. I'm sorry. Alec goes to speak with Adele. She tells him some goons came the previous night saying they want the files. So on top of the debt, which has already been paid by Alec, the cash, there's another reason they're still looking for Max, and they think he has some type of a file. And of course, Adele doesn't know that he's talked to Max because he's trying to give Max some more time. Um, he tells her, I'm gonna fix it, don't worry, X, Y, and Z. So he talks to Caleb, and I'm sorry, he lets her know he's talked to Caleb, and she's gonna be getting more security. And then she asks him about Jaya, and he of course is trying to play it off, like she's just a friend. But she clearly can tell that he's crazy about her because she knows her son. I forgot to mention he did call her mom when she had told him about the goons coming and stuff like that, because they went and saw her, and apparently they went and saw, I think, the fiance again too. Um, he called her mom, and that would of course was very endearing to her because he either calls her Mimi or he calls her Adele. So we switch back to Jaya. She comes over, and she has decided she wants to be more freer, more fun. And when she gets to his place, the hotel room, she does see a La Perla outfit. And she thought someone had, another woman had been there. But of course, she can't get mad because they don't have any titles. So he tells her, like, so she doesn't think too long about that, I bought it for you. So then they have their fun. The next day, she talks to her friend Misha. We find out Misha lives near Caleb. She can see right into Caleb's apartment. So she saw him jacking off, and that's all she's been able to to think about. But here's the thing. Misha doesn't do relationships, and Caleb wants to take her out on a date, wants to take her to dinner. Well, as long as Jaya has known Misha, the girl has been allergic to relationships. Jaya then tells Misha about the end of the year gala that she is going to be doing for Adele Thorpe. I can't talk today. And Misha's excited because she's going to be covering that event for the magazine. And so now Jaya's thinking, she's going back and forth. She wants to get back into the company, but now she's thinking maybe I can do this myself. I hope she does. I don't think her family deserves her. That business doesn't. Um, she had been looking through the box of stuff that her sister had brought over, and she doesn't see this software that she herself paid for and had someone create for her. And so Misha is like, you paid for it, you need to get your shit back. Like, period. And she's like, I'm going to do it. So then we switch back to Alec. He goes to meet up with Caleb. Caleb lets him know a couple things. Um, he says the whole thing with Jaya's friend, it's just, it's not panning out the way he thought. He starts messing with Alec about the fact that he has a girlfriend. Alec is like, I don't have a girlfriend. And then he tells him about the situation with Max. So now they can't find him anymore. He's gone off the grid. He's not using a credit card, clearly using cash, probably has someone else's car. And he hasn't been reported missing, so he's not able to go through the legal methods that he would normally do to try and find someone. Um, Caleb runs like a straight and narrow type of business. Like, he doesn't do the dirty shit. So they found from one of the driver's license plates from when the people came to, the goons came to try and scare Adele. They got a license plate and they find out it belongs to someone in the Sandoval family, which is a cartel family. So they think he was possibly running drugs for this cartel. And I'm like, he's so fucking dumb. Like, I'm sorry. He's just dumb. Like, I would just be like, fuck it. You're just stupid. What reason would you have to be running drugs for a cartel? You're not broke. I know you're not broke. So how the hell, what is really happening? He infuriates me too. We also find out that Alec went to school with one of the Sandoval boys. So he knows, like, they're ruthless. Like, they don't play around. Again, he's just so goddamn dumb, Max is. So Alec winds up going out with Jaya, and like, it kind of appears like it's coupled up. And that freaks him out. But she lets him know, listen, my friends just wanted to come out. I did too. That was it. Like, it's nothing behind it. But the truth was, he wanted to run. She danced a little bit, and then afterwards, she could tell he was ready to go. Caleb had found that someone in the bathroom at one of the other locations, they had drugs. So they're just trying to tie everything together about what's going on. Um, Jaya comes up to Alec and is like, let's get out of here. So he takes her hand, takes her off to the private elevator. She stops the elevator and no, I'm sorry. She asks him, does the elevator stop? He hits the stop button and they have a nice little heart buck in the elevator. And then she, of course, is hoping to do even more things with him. So Jaya takes Alec with her to the break-in. Of course, I'm shocked. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm not shocked that he went, but I'm like, that's a fucking, I don't know. I'll be a little paranoid about that one. That's a whole ass crime. And he tells her, like, I don't do this type of stuff. Because, he's a man with, many talents. And he's like, I don't do this. And she's just like, but it's mine. I need my stuff. So he agrees to go. They get there. We find out her sister has actually moved into her old office. And she has also changed the number to the safe, which shocked her because she didn't think that she would have done that. I said, see, I mean, I don't know why the bitch sneaky. I don't know why we would have thought that, but anyway, I digress. So my problem, like I said, with her, you keep underestimating her and you get fucked every time. So she needs to stop. So she can't figure out the code, and then Alex says, well, your sister's like really self-absorbed, so what's something that only she would know? So she thinks back to when her sister was in high school. She was the head cheerleader and she was fucking the captain of the football team and two other guys on the football team. And so the three combinations were all of their jersey numbers. I said, this bitch. So anyway, they hear a noise. And so they get in the closet, and it is so much sexual tension. She's like rubbing his dick. He starts rubbing on her clit. And they have to do this all quietly, right? Finally, they hear the voices like leave. They're more distant away. And they come out and they just have a full on hard fuck session. And something in that moment kind of happened between the two of them. He wanted to tell her he would stay, but he's like he's in a Westthorpe, and eventually he's gonna leave, and he just doesn't want to hurt her. So he just looks like we crossed something off your naughty list. Well, I'm sorry, not naughty list. Your before 30 list, and just kind of tried to keep it light. Alex goes to talk to Adele. He's nervous. He doesn't know how he's going to tell her this information that he's now acquired. But he tells her what's been going on. So Max has been running drugs through at least two of the clubs, one in La Jolla and the other in Oceanside. And apparently they've been having like these crazy amounts of profit. While Synthesis, which is the new club, um, he hasn't been able to get his hands on that one. So looks like that one's clean. But he's been laundering money. It looks like about over 2 million it's been done. So he's been fucking up real bad. And she's like, you know, I'm sorry. I knew something was going on, and I didn't I didn't handle it like I should have. And Alec tells her, you may be able to cover the 2 million in the dirty books, but you can't go public. You need to wait another year, and you need to close both of those clubs in La Jolla and Oceanside, and just leave Synthesis open. And she she had asked him before if he would come on and be VP for the company, but he doesn't want to do it. She knows he needs to be free. He called her mother, and then I think the problem fully is the fact, she didn't want to face that her son was out of control. And she was getting upset, and it's like, this is not Alex's fault. Alex didn't do this shit. You called Alex here to try and figure out what was going on because you couldn't face it. And, you know, to me, he's trash, Max is, because he left you all here to face his crimes. And she tells him, like, honestly, if I could send Max to a Thai prison, I would. I'll just probably have to settle for San Quentin. And I don't know. I get it. She's a mother. That's her child. But I also think you have to kind of understand and accept when your child's just a fucking reject and a loser. I think you have to accept that. And babying them and trying to give them more room only gives them more opportunity to fuck up your shit. I'm quite sure he's made other mistakes within this company. I'm quite sure. This shit could have been fixed. He should have never had access to funds of that magnitude. You put too much trust in him, and he never proved that he deserved it. All his actions proved is that he was full of shit. And you hoping he'll work it out one day could cost you your whole company. And I can't feel bad for you in that regard because, yeah, you're a mother, but bitch, you're also a businesswoman. And you need to take care of your fucking business. There's a hell of a lot more people depending on you to run this place correctly than to let some asshole, you know, fuck up everything you've worked for. Again, that's just my little rant. She can't put it off any longer. She's got to tell the board what's going on and see how they want to proceed. So they're at the rehearsal dinner at the country club. Brett is there, and she has the opportunity to go talk to him, and she finds herself like kind of stalled, like stalling. And Alec is like, "This is what you want. Like, go talk to him." He's like, "I'll go find Derek and I'll keep him preoccupied." So eventually, she takes a glass of champagne to the head. She's heading towards Brett, and her dad pops up. And she's like, excuse me, he's really like, we need to vet this new man in your life, that Tamara says you have. And she's like, we don't need to vet him. She's like, what are you talking about? And then he goes in on her. He's like, you don't always make the best decisions. And she unleashed him. She grabbed him, pulled him to the side, and she said, you know what's messed up is that the man that has cheated on me, plotted to get me fired, marrying my sister, he's vile. And you didn't have my back once. You didn't try and protect me. And he's like, oh, you're just so emotional and all this type of crap. And she just basically let him know, I have a job. Even though you tried to mess up my chances, I still have one. And he was like, she told him you've never been there for me. You've always been like this. You know, he tells her you still have your shares, you're still a Trudeau. She says that's not going to mean anything. The majority is going to go between Tamara and Derek once they get married. I'm not going to have any power. You took everything away from me. So stop acting like you didn't. And she was just letting him have it, and I was so glad that she said what needed to be said, because he is a piss poor father. He wants to give Tamara everything she desires. Everything she does is perfect, but then you want to make the other child feel like they're doing something wrong and they're the one that's doing the right things. That's awful. That's stupid, and he's awful. But I feel like her father knew she was going to talk to Brett. The father knows they got that contract because of her. He saw where she was going and he wanted to fuck her up, and it worked. It fucking worked. Because guess where she didn't go? She didn't go talk to Brett. So she's about to cry. Alec came up to her. She's like, don't try and console me. You're good at that, but I know this isn't real. She's like, you're leaving in a couple days. He's like, I do care about you. He's like, but I am still leaving. You know? And she says, but that's a choice that you're making. You don't have to do that. And she told him, I just need some time. I need to take a walk. A couple days have passed. A few things have happened. Alec has gotten a job offer for an interim CEO for a company. I think it was called Bang Industries or something like that. So they're transitioning. So they need him for about 2 months, and they're offering him like an insane amount of money, which will be great for him because he wants to do that trip in Africa. So it should be a no-brainer. The job's in Boston, but all he can think about is how far away he's going to be from Jaya. And he's on her doorstep, pacing back and forth. And we also find out that Adele, she did go follow through. She's gone to the board. She's explained what happened. They've given Max 2 days to resurface before they go directly to the police. And then he's going to be on the wanted list. So I'm like, hey, that's how it's going to go down. Works for me. So he's getting ready to knock on the door, and Jaya opens the door. She's got cans. She's about to go down to the recycling bin. And she, of course, is like, what are you doing here? He drags her back in the apartment. And she, again, is like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? And he tells her he likes her so much. He's like confessing what he feels for her. He's like, you were right. You were really seeing me, and it freaked me out. And he's like, for the first time, I really don't want to leave because of you. And she's like, well, I don't want you to do that. I want you to stay because it's something you want to do. He tells her, let's cross something else off your list. He's only got 2 days left in town. So they go to the balcony, and Marco can see them from the balcony, the guy that works at the front desk. And one of the fantasies he's going to give her, well, the fantasy, let's say it correctly, the fantasy he's going to give her is having someone watch her while she's being pleased. So this isn't a threesome, but it's like a prelude to it, to the possibility. So he's fingering her. Marco is watching. He's rubbing his dick through his pants. And then when he starts to make her come, Marco's got his whole dick out, full on stroking. I'm like, they don't have no cameras up there? Like, wow. She's so turned on with the idea of having Marco looking at her, wanting her. And Alec is just kind of like, what did he say to her? I don't know. They start fucking. And he basically asked her while they were fucking, like, do you want someone else here? Like, do you want to fuck him? And she was just like, no, she just wanted him. And that was it. And so they have this nice hard fuck. And then afterwards, Marco closes the window or the blinds or whatever was there. He closes them up. He then runs her a bath, and he just knows it's going to be pretty damn difficult to walk away from her in 2 days. Alec and Jaya were talking about like past things. Like she was talking about her mother's love of color, how when she started wearing color, her father told her she looked like a tart. So then she went back to wearing like grays, blacks, and muted colors. And so on her wall in her room, there's like this one pop of color. She can't decide what color she wants. And so what he told her he would do is he would dress her for the wedding. And she had to fully agree to him to pick out the dress. He's like, someone owes me a favor. I can get one borrowed for free. So she, of course, is like, I don't even want to know what why you owe someone a favor for a dress. I don't even want to know. um, so they get the dress. She leaves, but he stays and he winds up calling Caleb over. He gets the name of the paint that's in Max's hotel room that he's been staying in because she always says she really likes it. So he's painting the walls this really neat gold color. And while they're doing it, Caleb, of course, is, talking about Max and telling him that he shouldn't be so hard on Max. Like, you both are running from something. He just does it in another way. And he's like, yeah, you're more reliable and things like that. But, how long do you stay on a job? Like, what's the longest you've done with a job? And he said, I've had assignments for 6 months. And he says, yeah, but how many times have you cut out before the 6 months stating that it was a matter of creative differences? And so, of course, Alec is like, where are you going with this, Oprah? And I'm sorry, but I don't really agree with Caleb. Um, Does Alec have issues with commitment in relationships? Absolutely. But you know what he doesn't do? He doesn't go and get involved in relationships and then break the commitment. He doesn't do that. He sticks to the things that he can do. And if he can't do it, he doesn't commit to it. I don't think that's a problem. It is an issue. There is an intimacy, a commitment that on the relationship level, yes. But how do you compare that with someone who has got a woman pregnant, asked her to marry him, ran drugs through a fucking club that's owned by his mother, put all these different people at risk? We can't compare the two. I'm sorry. I don't see it's not the same. So Caleb can fuck off because I'm like, that's not true. I think you would prefer to have your friend around. I think that's what it is. And him not being around, I think you feel like he's running from the family as well, right? I think I'll give you that, but just fucking say that. But don't compare him to Max, because Max is another beast. And I'm sorry. I don't fucking agree with that. That was trash to me. If you want to tell him, hey, why don't you try and give a relationship with her a try? You clearly like the woman. I've never seen you like this with anyone. You can say that, but to put him in the same phrase as that fucking Max, I was like, Caleb, you ain't shit either. Jaya comes home. She, of course, is upset. She tells Caleb to excuse them, and she tells Alec, you didn't give, like, this is not okay. Like, you don't get to take my choices away from me. She's like, now I got to pay for someone to fix this. And in his mind, what he heard is now she wants to erase him. He didn't think about the fact that she would want a choice in this. Okay. How he didn't think that, I don't know, being the fact that she is a control freak. But I also think maybe he was trying to, in his mind, he was taking something off her plate. Like, now you don't have to make the choice. You said you really like this color. I'll do this for you so you don't have to think about it anymore and wrestle with it, you know? But I do get what she's saying is not wanting your choices to be taken away from you. I do. I get that. Um, so she of course was pissed off. She's like, now I got to go stay with either, Rika or Misha for a couple days until this gets fixed, or at least until this paint dries and all this type of stuff. And he decided at that time he was going to go ahead, and actually he had already accepted the job from Bain Industries, and now he feels like he's really done the right thing. So Jaya goes to her friends, talks with Misha and Rika, and they basically tell her she's being stupid in a nutshell. Like, they understood the whole thing. They were like, if you wanted to pick out a color, great. But it wasn't him trying to take control from you. He really was just trying to do something nice for you that you've been trying for months to do, but you couldn't pick it out because you couldn't make a fucking decision. And so he tried to handle that for you to take that off your plate. And you bitched him out. She's like, you're the one that grabbed him and fucked him the first night. You're the one that, had him break into your, former employer's place to get your software. Like, you're treating him as if he's doing these awful fucking things to you. Like, he's making you do these things. But you're fucking doing this. You're making him do these things. And then she, of course, felt stupid. So she went to the bar to apologize to him during the day. She had just finished talking with Adele. He, of course, accepted her apology. She also had on her list about being a bartender. So he said, well, come behind. Let me show you how to make a drink. So he had her make a drink. And then she did a little sexy dance for him in the booth, got naked, put on a whole the song "Giving Him Something He Can Feel" by In Vogue. Great song, by the way. And they wound up having a nice hard fuck. And then afterwards, they have a real conversation. And she just says to him, like, "Can I ask you something? Like, you clearly are really smart. Like, you should be running your own business. Like, what's the deal?" She's like, "It's like you're just passing time." He didn't tell her everything. All he really said was that when his mom died, that's when, he became close with the Westhorpe. I don't know why I can't say it sometimes. Westhorpe. Can't Westhorpe's family. That he's just been close with them since he was 16. And that's all he said. He felt like he's leaving in a day or two, so there's no real point in telling her everything else, and admitting who he really is and all this type of stuff. And he says something about not really wanting to stay permanently, this and that. And she says, well, maybe you just haven't been looking close enough, basically, for a reason to stay. So it's the evening of the wedding. She is dressed in this beautiful red gown. It's really pretty, really sexy. And he comes dressed in a suit. He's like, oh my God, you look so amazing. But he's got to blow the deal to her. When they get outside, he's got a Rolls Royce, therefore. but he tells her he has to leave tonight. She, of course, explodes. She's pissed. Of course, she's like, I knew you would do this to me. Like, you never commit to anything in your life. You know, what is it? Some bartender emergency? She was just beyond pissed. He told her it's really a matter of life and death, but he wouldn't tell her what it was. And she was like, you know what? Doesn't matter. I do everything else on my own. I'll do this too. We switch back to Alec. He's on his way to San Francisco to get Max. So they found him. He's in the townhouse. He's reeking of alcohol when he opens the door. The whole place smells like a bar. Clearly, he's been on a bender. Max says to him, you know, like, you run from commitments too, like all this stupid shit. And he tells him, you're the one that asked that girl to marry you, got her pregnant, and now you want to run. He's like, that's not what I do. And he said something about, because he had called him like the bastard son or something like that. And then he starts saying about what happened, how everything went down. And he says basically he wanted money for himself, something that wasn't being watched by his mom. But then again, why is she having to watch your money like that? Because you're not responsible, right? So, you know what I'm saying? Like, she's not going to do it for no reason. You're not responsible. But anyway, I digress. So, he says what happened was, at first, you know, it was just a little bit. And then they kept wanting him to do it more and more. And before he knew it, he owed them money. And so, you know, Alec is pissed because he's like, you know what? He's basically like, you ungrateful, you know, SOB. You know, you're so ungrateful. I'm missing my commitment right now with someone. I broke a commitment to be here for you. And you're just running, just being stupid. And in that moment, Alec was like, I should have just went with, you know, Jaya. Like, me up here dealing with this stupid ass. He's like, what the fuck am I doing? You know? Like, I'm gotta come here and I gotta clean up your bullshit. He's like, I'm done with it. He's like, I'm fucking done. And Max is like, I'll go back, you know. He's like, I didn't mean for everything to fall on everybody else. And I'm like, what did you think was gonna happen? You knew people are after you. If you're not there, they're gonna come to the people closest to you. You knew. Like, that's a lie. I can't stand him. She goes to the wedding. She goes up, talks to Brett, and she lets him know, I am no longer with Trudeau Events. And he looks at her and he's like, I told your dad that I wanted you to head up the account, you know, for the conference. And she's like, well, it'll be Derek that'll be heading it up for you. And he's like, all he gave us was all flash. That's not what I want. That's not going to work. And she tells him, well, I'm currently, you know, an independent contractor, JT Events. She came up with that on the spot. I love it, you know, because I'm like, that's what she needs to be doing. She told him, you know, I'm doing an event for Adele Westhorpe at the end of the year, her end of the year gala. He's like, oh, wow, that's a big deal, you know. He's like, I've heard she's a pretty hard at, you know, pretty hard. And she says, oh, you know, she's fine, you know. So he tells her, I'll be talking to your dad in the morning and then I'll give you a call. Basically letting her know your dad's company is getting fired and you're getting hired. So she's got two big clients. And I was like, good for her. She doesn't need her dad. He's fucking trash. Before she leaves, Brett, though, he says, I was hoping you would bring the Westhorpe guy with you. And she says, who? And he says, the guy you brought to the rehearsal dinner, Alec. I was hoping to speak with him. I met him a few years ago with his mother, Adele. But I hadn't had a chance to talk to him, so I was hoping tonight I would get to talk to him. And she's looking like, the fuck? So she says, you know, his name is Alec Danthers. And he says, I mean, he may go by that, but that's Royce Westhorpe's oldest son. And so she walks away, and then Alec shows up. She sees him, but she's pissed. She's like, I don't need you. And he's like, you need to like let me explain to you, because she's like, you're a Westhorpe. She's like, you could have told me that. Like, what did you think? I wanted your money? You know? She's like, I didn't want that. And so, he's trying to talk to her, explain to her kind of, why it kind of went that way. And, the whole thing about, how he runs from commitment and shit like that and X, Y, and Z. And he told her the story with the mom and stuff, but she was just too far gone. She's like, no, I don't care. Like, I never want to speak to you again. Poor Alec is just standing there, and then Pierre Trudeau comes up and he says to him, he knew who he was. He's like, I knew you were the bastard son and all this type of crap. And Alec went off on him and was like, you know what? You need to treat your child better. Like, you are a horrible father. You fired her. You've taken the word of other people over her. You slandered her around town. He was like, I fired her because I wanted her to strike out on her own, but I never called anyone. I never tried to sabotage her. And he's like, I even offered to call people on her behalf. And he's like, well, that doesn't make sense if you called to sabotage and then could try to help her. And he says, I do love my daughter and all this type of crap. He's Alec tells him, well, then you need to have a conversation with her and you really need to listen to her. And you also might want to think about who the hell would have gained something by trashing her name all over town. So she talks to the girls, telling them what happened. They're trying to give her some perspective, but they're like, listen, girl, you got two great jobs. You've had the best sex of your life. You wiped some things off of your list that, let's be honest, you wouldn't have done before. Okay. Um, you've gained. Yes, you're hurt because some things, didn't pan out the way you thought, but you have not lost anything. And that did give her some great perspective. We fast forward, it's been 6 months. We're at the event for Adele. It's perfection. Adele is extremely happy with it. Adele offers her to come on and be like a full-time planner of events at Westhorpe Hotels. And this would have been a job that 6 months ago she would have wanted, when she initially got fired. But now she loves doing her own thing, being in control. And Adele says just that to her. You want to do your own thing, don't you? And she's like, yeah. So Adele says, well, then let's talk about working on a contract basis. And then she did mention Alec, and Adele, she was like, no, I don't think that's a good idea. But Adele said, don't say no based upon a man, you know? Like, don't do that to yourself. Don't sell yourself short. So she was like, we'll talk later. And she walks off. So then her dad comes up. Adele had invited him. Well, shall we say, wanted her to invite him. He, of course, was like, this is magnificent, which is the first time he's ever said that to her. He told her that he fired Derek once he found out that he was the one that had been going around town blocking her from other jobs. And he was also sorry for choosing him over her. And he was like, I hope, how did he put it? Let me say this correctly. He says, I hope me firing him is like a start for us in the right direction. So on Monday, they're supposed to have coffee, X, Y, and Z. I'm like, okay. I still don't like him because it almost feels like firing the Derek dude. That's what, 6 months too late. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. I just don't like it. I don't like the dad. But I guess that's him, I don't know, giving the olive branch. Ugh. Anyway, so then we switch back to Alec and we find out old boy is at the event. He, of course, was miserable without his Jaya. He decided to come back home. He came to Adele and asked if the job for the VP of operations was still open. She said, of course, it is. She says, you were never not wanted here. Like basically you were running, but you were doing that to yourself. So he goes down, talks to Jaya. Of course, she's shocked to see him. He apologized to her for everything that happened. He told her he loved her, all this great stuff. She, of course, was like, "Why should I believe you? Like, how do I know that, you're not going to up and get on a plane tomorrow, because you've got that itch to leave?" And so he gets on one knee and he proposes to her. He said, "Because I love you and I want to be with you and I want you to be my wife," and all this great stuff. And Misha yells out, "Girl, say yes." She's like, "You've been miserable without that man." And he said to he said, in his head, he's thinking, "I got to remember to buy her a drink." And so at that point, she said yes, she would marry him. She would have done it without a ring. But he says he still wanted to give it to her. We fast forward a year. They're married. Both are really busy. She comes home and she wants to get in a quickie before his meeting. So they go in the shower. She sucks him off. He fucks her. They do a little anal. They have a great time. So then afterwards, he gets a phone call from Caleb, because he was gonna go to the meeting, but then he was like, "You know what? Adele can handle that. It is a big deal client. Um, they're like this luxury. I think it's Klein something. They're like this luxury hotel chain, and they've got this partnership." The guy at first was really worried about Alec because of his playboy ways and stuff like that. But then when he saw how committed Alec was and getting stuff done, he was like, okay, he's a real deal. So he won the guy over. But he's like, you know what? He doesn't have to handle it all. Adele can take this. So he takes the call from Caleb, and all of a sudden he says, "I'll be right there." And that's how the book ends. Next week, we are going to dive into Sultry and Stilettos, book number 2. What did you guys think of book number 1, Sexy and Stilettos? I really liked it. Because of the way it ended, again, I thought it was going to be like a one and done. Like, okay, it's a series, but you can read them individually. And then with that ending, I was like, oh, can't do that. So we're going to be diving into book 2. Let me know what you guys think. Drop down in the comment section and let me know. If you are in the market for a beautiful notebook or journal, I will have those available, and the links are going to be available down below in the description section. Make sure you like and subscribe and share. And as always, I truly do thank you all for your support, and thank you for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.